Hey everybody, it's low carb and keto nutrition specialist Amy Berger from 2itnutrition.com bringing you the one and only keto without the crazy. Today's topic is another viewer request. Before I get to the topic though, just a reminder, always check out the notes in my videos. I post links to relevant videos that are related to this video's topic. I do one-on-one consultations. If you're having trouble with keto or you just want some help and some guidance, you can work with me one-on-one privately. There's a link. And there are also links to certain products that I use and love and trust. There's some electrolyte stuff down there. There's zero sugar beef jerky, so check it out. Viewer request topic today. I don't have her email in front of me, so I forget exactly how she worded it, but the gist of it was there are some fairly prominent people in the low carb world lately. Not like, well, let me not go there. People with big influencers, and I hate that word, but people with large followings who have been sort of saying that they don't think it's a good idea to do keto for the long term. I don't know that any of them has come out and said it's actually unsafe to do, but they've sort of been backing away from this love affair with keto, and they're saying, I've started eating honey, I started eating fruit, I think other people should eat fruit, I've been eating starch and other people should, like nobody, we shouldn't be afraid of starch and all this. And, what are you supposed to believe? What are you supposed to think? Who do you listen to? Let me say a couple of things at the beginning here of this discussion, but is it a discussion if it's only one person talking? I guess it's a monologue. So at the outset of this little monologue, couple of things. First, all I can do is give you my opinion. None of this is prescriptive for you. I can't tell you what to do. I can just give you my thoughts on the situation, which is what I'm going to do. And then number two, those of you that have watched my channel for a while, and if you haven't, just hit that little subscribe button, and then you're like with me forever. You've heard me say numerous times that I don't really care what anyone does as long as they're happy with the results they're getting. I don't have any dog in any particular fight, not even the keto fight, right? I've never said that keto is the only way to be healthy or lose weight, or it's the best way to lose weight or be healthy. I mean, I think it's pretty darn good. I've never said it's the best. Anyway. So I've had clients in the past who I recommended to eat more carbohydrate because super, super ultra strict keto is not appropriate for everyone in every single situation for every single human on planet Earth. It's just not. And that's where clinical experience and judgment comes in. Like, there are nuances, there are circumstances that, okay, what do we need to change here? So I am not wedded to keto. I mean, I specialize in low carb and keto, but I have had clients who I recommended to eat more carbs, and guess what? They felt better. They started doing better. So, what can I say though about this whole like keto isn't good to do long term? I'm not sure what their reasons are for saying this. Here's my hunch, because here's some of what we see, but then I'll tell you why I think we see it, and is it because of keto, or are there other things at work that could be causing these issues? So we see people after some amount of time on a strict ketogenic diet, and I'm not talking low-ish carb, I mean strict keto, like very, very low carb, higher fat, typically also skimping a little bit on protein. And let's stick a pin in that. I may have to come back to that. People doing ultra strict keto. And sometimes what we see is after some period of time, like at first they feel amazing. Their life has changed. Oh my God, the gates to the heavens have opened. And then at some point starts to kind of not be going quite so well anymore. They might feel tired, like not sleepy tired, but kind of fatigued and sluggish. They just kind of lose their motivation. They lose their oomph. It might even, in some people, it'll manifest as like a little bit of like mild anxiety, depression. Um, Possibly even things like I did a video not long ago on nutrient deficiencies. I'll put a link. You might start to see changes in your skin, your hair, your nails, just all kinds of different things. And or a lot of people that if you work out a lot, they'll find that they sort of lose the motivation and desire to go to the gym or to work out. They just kind of lose that spark. Or they're still working out, but they don't have the stamina they used to. They don't have the strength and power. And maybe they're not getting any further if they're trying to bulk up or whatever their goal is with physicality. They're not progressed. They've kind of been stuck for a while. Some people could be gaining weight, gaining body fat, even though they're still sticking to their same diet. Lots and lots of different stuff happens. Women sometimes it could be changes to your cycle, and I'm not really talking like perimenopausal, menopausal, where you know it's going to be wacky for a while. I mean like younger women who should be like clockwork-ish or close to it. Men, you could lose your libido, poor erectile function. So like a sexual dysfunction is a big aspect of this. So why might this be happening? Is it keto? Is keto bad for all of this stuff? In my opinion, no. What is bad for long-term health is eating like a friggin' idiot. Eating like a person who is completely ignoring the signals your body is sending you. And so I talked about, I stuck a pin in the protein. That's part of a larger discussion that part of what I see, and again, I can only speak from what I've seen in my clients and what I've seen just observing stuff online. The people that run into these kinds of problems tend to be the people who are taking, how do I say this? They're just not eating enough. I mean, let me just say it in plain English. They are not eating enough food. The keto world has gone too far in demonizing eating regular meals. Not everybody needs to fast. Not everybody needs to eat one meal a day or two meals a day. Some people, if you're young and healthy and very active and you have a very fast metabolism, you probably should not be eating only one meal a day. I wouldn't want you fasting 16 and 18 hours a day. And then you wonder why you're tired and you're cold and you're depressed. You need to eat. Please put some food in your mouth and swallow it, chew and swallow it and digest it and absorb it. Thank you very much. So that's something I definitely see, is that we've gone too far in making people afraid to just sit down and eat. And sit down and eat more than once a day. So, but remember, before I forget to even say this, we tend not to see these types of problems, the fatigue and all this stuff, in people that have 20 pounds, 50 pounds, 200 pounds to lose, and people that have type 2 diabetes, people with PCOS, people with these sort of cardiometabolic issues. I don't see them running into many, if any, of these particular issues. It tends to be people that were already relatively healthy and lean and active to begin with, but maybe they're really interested in health and fitness, and so they're always looking for the next best thing, the next, what's new and shiny in the fitness world, what new diet, what's the holy grail of diet? Oh, I did paleo 5 years ago, but now it's keto. I'll do keto. And so these are people who were already lean and healthy. They didn't need to do an ultra strict ketogenic diet to get any healthier. I mean, maybe it went a little bit, maybe they got a little leaner, but they didn't really need keto in the way that somebody does who's living with morbid obesity or raging type 2 diabetes or, gout or whatever, non-alcoholic fatty liver. So I think, and there's a lot of, it's not orthorexia. I don't think there is a word for it, just distorted thinking about food in the keto world. Some people come into keto already with a very distorted food mindset, and they are always looking for the right diet, the proper diet. I mean, that actually is the definition of the orthorexia, the right diet. And then I actually wrote a blog post about a book about orthorexia years ago. I'll put a link to it because I still think it's probably more relevant now than it was back then. But it was a book written by the man who coined the word orthorexia. Anyway, there's people who come into keto already with a distorted mindset, and they come into keto because they're obsessed with diet and weight loss and fitness and perfection. And then there's people who fall down a few too many keto rabbit holes and develop that disordered or distorted thinking around food. And it's not an eating disorder. It's a different thing. I'm saying disordered thinking and disordered and distorted thinking around food. I just think that we inadvertently, and I don't think I'm guilty of this, but a lot of other people in the keto world are, we have maybe inadvertently, and some people maybe intentionally, made people terrified to eat a sufficient caloric load, a sufficient amount of food to fuel your CrossFit 17 times a week or your marathon running or whatever you're doing. So that's one thing. And so I said it was the protein. I've done numerous videos on like why you don't need to skimp on protein and you shouldn't be afraid of protein. But that's only one aspect. I just mean food overall. Eating a solid amount of food to support your activity. No wonder you're fatigued and depressed, and no wonder you're losing gains at the gym and you're just you're starving. I mean, not literally, but you're not eating enough food to support your body's needs to keep up with the physical and emotional demands that you have. So that's one aspect. Then the other thing is, I guess there are, I do have concerns with certain nutrients on keto. And again, you just have to not be completely ignorant of what you're doing. What is your typical diet? What do you normally eat on a regular basis? And what might potentially be missing in terms of micronutrients, if anything? I'll link to that video that I did recently on nutrient deficiencies, but maybe the particular food, because again, some people who do keto are very, very rigid. They have the same thing every day, or maybe they eat the same thing for a week and then the next week it's something else. Like whatever it is, some people get into these routines, or I would say ruts, but you get it because you're just comfortable. It's working well, you're losing the weight, you feel good, then this is what I'm going to eat forever. Because might that particular approach be leaving you short in some vitamin or mineral that could be responsible for your fatigue, the joint pain, the dry chapped lips, the breaking nails, so that's, you just have to sort of sit down and assess that. What could be missing? And there's a siren outside. I hope the camera's not picking it up. I'm sure you can hear it now. I'll wait till it passes. Love the firemen though. They keep us, I hate sirens, love the firemen, people that literally will run into a burning building to save our lives. I mean, hello. So, the guys, my friends at LMNT, so, the electrolyte, there's a link below, new flavor chocolate mint. They came to realize that a lot of, they have thousands and thousands upon thousands of people that they've coached over the last several years. A lot of their members needed way more sodium than anyone would have ever imagined. So they know that now. Most of those people need a lot more sodium. Some of them need also the additional potassium and magnesium. And so maybe that's you. And maybe you're ultra strict. As much as we love keto, there might be shortfall nutrients where you do need to supplement. So it's not, and I guess you could say in that sense, strict keto is responsible for some of the, negative things you're experiencing, but there's ways to correct for that. Just eat more salt, take a magnesium supplement. You don't have to like abandon keto. If it's working for you otherwise, however you want to define working for you, weight loss, no more migraines, no more joint pain, no more heartburn, whatever your thing is that keto is working for, helping you with, you can still do keto, but you just have to plug those little holes that might be in your diet. That's one thing. the nutrients and the sodium. Let me think of the other thing is keto. It's there's some people it's too much fasting, and this is where like I'm gonna admit to you fully. You know I never BS you like I do. When I'm not sure of something, I tell you I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure here, but there are, and what I would say is I'm not 100% sure why, but like, because biochemically, physiologically, and anatomically, carbohydrate is not required in the human diet. And I'm not making that up, that's a fact. Like, we do not need to ingest carbohydrate. The human body needs glucose, but we've got about 87 different mechanisms to make glucose out of other stuff. So you never have to eat carbohydrate. But that being said, I've seen it enough times that there are people out there who just feel better with a little more carbohydrate in their diet. And I'm not talking 200 grams a day, 300 grams a day, 80 grams, 75, 80 to 100, which I know if you do ultra strict keto, 100 sounds like, oh my goodness, whoa, like I would gain 50 pounds on that. Like, but in the grand scheme of things and in the grand scheme of the human family of different people's metabolisms and lifestyles and stuff, 100 grams of carbs is not that high. In fact, it's very high compared to where you might be. But compared to where you were before keto, it's probably low. 100 grams a day is probably much less than you were typically eating before you started your low carb or keto diet. I know it's a lot less than I was eating before keto. So it's just, and again, it's not that the starch is required. It's not that they have to eat it. They just feel better when they do. And I don't even want to get into the debate of like, well, is it from drinking soda or is it from Pop-Tarts and pastries and cookies, or is it from, sweet potatoes and black beans and lentils and like butternut squash, like wholesome real, like I don't even want to get into that little purity debate. Let's say we are sticking to like whole, real, unprocessed type foods. I do, like, so I'm not saying that you have to wake up and have a bowl of cereal with skim milk and a piece of toast with grape jam on it. You could eat your normal keto lowish carb diet most like all day, and then at dinner have a potato, have half a potato, have half a cup of beans, have something starchy, have a piece of fruit for dessert. Snack on a piece of fruit as your mid-afternoon snack. Like if you are someone who feels better with the carbs, this happened to me. Like I haven't worked out heavily in a long time. I just kind of lost my desire to, and I have to get back to it, unfortunately, because I do. But many years ago, talking 2000, oh, I don't even know. It's long time ago. I was doing very, very strict keto, very low carb, and I was lifting. I was doing cardio and lifting almost every day because I was unemployed. I had nothing better to do but be at the gym for a long time. And I was a member of a forum at the time that had a lot of people with a lot of experience. And there was one lady who was very knowledgeable. She was a bodybuilder, looked amazing. She just, I trusted her sort of. And I posted that, here's my diet. Like I'm really strict low carb. I'm feeling really burned out. Like all of a sudden I find myself, I don't want to go to the gym. I'm tired. I don't have any energy. What's going on? And so this was long before I was a nutritionist, long before I went to school for nutrition. Like this is, I don't even remember the year, long time ago. And she said to me, you need to eat more carbs. I know you're scared. I know you're like terrified to do this, but you need a little more carbohydrate. And she also said you don't have to eat 5 million grams of carbs. Just eat a little bit of starch, eat half a cup of oatmeal, something. And I did it, and it was like somebody flipped a switch. Like by the next day, I had come back to life. And it was really only a small amount of carbs. if I had to guess, I had introduced an extra maybe 45 grams of carbs a day, 50 at the most, on top of what I was already, the small amount I was already eating. So I was probably still under 100 grams, but I was eating more starch than I had been. And I fruit also. I had a little bit of fruit, and I felt so much better. So I just think that it's not keto per se. It's that the way you're doing a keto or low carb diet, you are not supporting your physical needs, your physiological demands. And it could be that if you would increase the total amount of food you were eating, so let's say not carbs, if you are like I put the pin, people who are just skimping on protein because you've been afraid of protein spikes your insulin and blah blah blah, just throw that out the window immediately. Watch the protein videos I'll link to below. Um, Maybe you just need a lot more food. Maybe instead of your stupid little 3 or 4 ounce piece of chicken, you need a 10-ounce ribeye. Maybe you need an 8 or 12-ounce New York strip steak or a 10-ounce pork chop. And instead of your little cup of broccoli, you need a pile of vegetables. Or like I think that's part of it. I think a lot of it is the sodium, but I think a lot of it is the food. You just need to eat more. Stop the fasting, stop the OMADing, the one meal a daying, and eat. Respect the fact that, here's the thing too. I Some of the people, like I said earlier, they come into the keto world with distorted thinking about food, or they come in with a totally healthy mindset and they develop a distorted mindset about food after falling down all the keto rabbit holes. Because that never happens. I've never seen that happen to anybody. I think another problem that we have is that people are applying recommendations and advice to themselves that is not intended for them and their situation, right? Like I'll give you two perfectly good examples here. I consider myself to specialize in like weight loss, PCOS, the cardiometabolic stuff, non-alcoholic fatty liver, just all that metabolic syndrome type stuff, and Alzheimer's, of course, and all that. But when I get inquiries like I do not specialize in epilepsy, because epilepsy is a different ball game, and in most cases it requires a lot more fine tuning that I don't have the experience to do. So if somebody writes to me for help with that, I refer out. I feel very fortunate to have like a wide network of colleagues that do specialize in other things. Some people occasionally write to me for cancer. People use keto as like an adjunct therapy for cancer. Adjunct therapy, please always work with your doctors. Like I'm not giving medical advice here. But they ask me for help with a ketogenic diet for cancer. Not my specialty, because that's a completely different ball game over there. I have people that I refer out to. So there are healthy, active, fit people who are eating like a child with epilepsy, or who are eating like somebody who's doing therapeutic keto for cancer or some other medical condition. People that don't need that approach. And I wish I had started off with that. This is what happens when I don't make notes. But I'm glad I remembered to address this point at all. Make sure that you know what you're listening to and who it's intended for. If you're healthy and lean and active and fit and you've got all the good stuff going on, you probably don't need to follow the same kind of therapeutic keto diet that a doctor would prescribe, like literally prescribe for a patient with morbid obesity and type 2 diabetes and gout and hypertension. Can you understand why that is? That the approach and the advice that is appropriate for one situation does not apply to all other situations. And I think this is what we see in a lot of the people who don't do well on keto long term. It's because they don't need ultra strict medical therapeutic intervention diet. They just need to maybe not eat 500 grams of carbs a day, but they could eat 100. They could eat 125. Do you know what I mean? Like I see this all the time where just because a diet happens to work really, really well for reversing type 2 diabetes or PCOS or fatty liver or all the things, doesn't mean that you have to eat that way, or that's the best way, or a sensible way for you to eat when you don't have any of those conditions, right? And again, people in the keto world, I hope not me, I try not to be guilty of this, but other people that I know of in the keto world have made it sound like this is the only way and the best way, and everybody should and needs to eat this way. And so they've scared people off of doing anything different. It's one of the things I love about what Ted Naiman is doing right now with his P to E, the protein to energy diet, because it's not just more protein, it's more carbs. And I am not suggesting that everybody needs to eat more carbs. Some people do need ultra strict keto, you know? I mean, I wrote that book with Eric Westman, End Your Carb Confusion. Our phase 1 food plan is 20 total grams of carbs a day. No subtracting fiber. That doesn't leave you a whole lot of room. That's ultra, ultra strict. But not everybody needs that. And there's a lot of people having really fantastic success with Dr. Naiman's approach, and they're eating more carbs. It's frankly, it's nice to see after this huge just backlash against any, God forbid, you should eat a strawberry or a wedge of cantaloupe, like, you know, and even the carnivore movement. I have some dear friends in the carnivore movement. I've recommended the carnivore approach for clients because, again, depends on everybody's individual situation. What I'm going to think is probably the right thing for them at that point in time. Stick a pin in that. We're coming back to the right point in time after I'm done with this thought. With the carnivore movement becoming so popular, it's nice to see people have more vegetables on their plate now. When they post it, hey, Dr. Naiman, get a load of my dinner. And it's like a piece of salmon with this huge pile of colored vegetables. It's nice to see. And again, do you need to eat vegetables? No. But it's nice to see. It's nice to see people not be afraid of them anymore. So then let me get back to the right point. You know, I'm so good. I remember to come back to these pins that I stick. Something else to consider is that a lot of these keto gurus and influencers who are now saying this, like, oh no, maybe we should kind of all reintroduce fruit or reintroduce these higher carb foods, like super ultra strict keto is not great for everybody. I think that a lot of them got so into ultra strict keto because they did feel amazing at first. They lost weight, or they felt that everything was great, right? But then you go on and on and on and on and on, and maybe a year later or 2 or 5 years later or 6 months later, whatever the time scale, the approach that was fabulous and fantastic and the best for you at that other point in time is no longer the best, most effective for you now, right? Because you literally are not the same. You're older, you know, maybe only 6 months older, but a few years older, but that's not even it. It's more like your state of health might be completely different now, right? If you were someone who was living with morbid obesity and you never exercised or something, or you had all kinds of health issues, and now you don't, and your life, your activity level, your size, your shape is completely different, then you know, there's that saying, what got you here won't get you there. So the dietary approach that was dynamite and fabulous for getting you here is no longer the ideal thing to get you to the next point, or to just have you continue on feeling your best, feeling your most energetic, whatever. Does that make any sense? Like, let's say you, and I'll give you a perfect example. I mean, he's a friend of mine. I'm sure he won't mind me using his real name. He's on social media. Larry Diamond. He works for the fasting method up in Canada. and he started off with morbid obesity. I think he had fatty liver. He had he was either diabetic or pre-diabetic. He had a number of health issues, and he has had a radical transformation. He's very, very slender now. He's muscular. He exercises, and he did ultra strict keto for a long time. And he's to a point now where he regularly eats a little bit higher carb. I do, if I recall correctly, it's almost all starches, like beans, maybe some rice, things like that. Maybe fruit. I don't remember. I just know that like on potatoes, I think he does on a fairly regular basis. His normal diet now just includes a little more starch, and he feels great. He has not regained the weight. The metabolic problems have not come back, and it's because his condition, the condition of his body and of his health is so different now from what it was back then before keto. So that's something to keep in mind too, that like, don't forget to assess every now and then, how am I feeling? How am I doing? Because maybe something was working really great a while back and now it's not so much anymore. And that's what happened to me. I told you earlier that story of I started to feel like just really burned out at the gym and tired, and I didn't want to go. And it's because what had been working really well was no longer the right approach for me at this new point in time. And we get so wedded to what we're doing and so wrapped up. I'm keto, I'm paleo, I'm carnivore, like as if it's like your literal self-identity is what you eat. That's a problem. That's a whole other video I could do someday. Like, you as a human, you as an individual with a self-identity has nothing to do with the food you eat. I mean, it kind of does, but that is a separate thing. And this, I think it's problematic when we do identify so much with our way of eating, like I'm keto, 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 keto. And when you evangelize and you proselytize and you shame other people for what they're eating or not eating, because let's say 6 months later, you do find yourself having to, for the sake of you feeling better, introduce a little starch or a little fruit or something sweeter, higher carb into your diet. Where are you then when for 2 years you badmouthed everyone in your life and you looked down and judged all your friends and family because they were eating carbs? You know, or let's say the carnivore diet works awesomely for you for 6 months, a year, 18 months, and then you hit the 2-year mark and you just don't feel so great anymore. And let's say you start reintroducing some plant foods. Great, no problem. Like, good for you for recognizing that what you were doing was great up to a point, and then when it stopped being so great, you make a little shift, make a change if it's not so great anymore. But where will you be if you just spent the previous 2 years proselytizing and your YouTube channel was plants suck and like I'm a, carnivores rule? Like, if that's been your identity, well, no wonder the last thing you want to do is end that, is reintroduce other foods. Because now you look like a giant jerk, and you probably were. You didn't mean to be. You didn't mean to be. But that's how you came off to everyone around you with your keto this and keto that and carnivore this and like, live and let live, eat and let eat, eat and let eat. And just be aware of that. I think that's, so just to recap, to summarize, I think the people that run into problems long-term keto are just, for the most part, in what I've seen, not eating enough food, not eating enough and not eating frequently enough. They've consumed the sugar-free keto Kool-Aid on the fasting, the sugar-free fasting Kool-Aid. So, fasting is not appropriate for everybody. So too little food too infrequently, possibly some unrecognized micronutrient insufficiencies, with, I'll post the link to the nutrient deficiencies video and some of my videos on, the issue with don't be afraid of protein. And then the other issue to end is this, where we become so wedded and so wrapped up in an approach that was working so well that it's hard for us to even like recognize the point at which it stops working so well, and the point at which, like, you don't have to keto harder, you don't have to fast harder, you don't have to fast more. Maybe you have to fast less. Maybe you need to do less keto. Maybe you need to eat a little bit of carbohydrate. And it is hard. I understand. Like, I've been through it. It's when something was working so well, it really is difficult to admit, to acknowledge the possibility that it could be the diet that now needs to change. And we see this all the time in the vegan community, right? How many former and ex-vegans do we know? And it's not like the minute they started to feel fatigued or brain fogged or lost their period or something, it's not like the minute that happened, they started eating animal foods again. It took months and months, and for some of them years. They had to get so far toward the bottom of feeling awful before they were able and willing to acknowledge, maybe I need some animal foods in my diet. But we don't have to wait until it gets that bad. It's okay. It's okay to eat more carbs. It doesn't mean that keto is bad or harmful. It just means that your body wants a little bit more carbohydrate. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Like remember, this is not prescriptive. I always, everything is individual. If you know that you are somebody who, at least right now, at this point in time, thrives on ultra low carb strict keto, you do that. If you are currently doing ultra low carb strict keto and you feel like garbage, maybe it's time for you to eat a little bit more carbs. And before I forget, the first blog post I will link to, I am a blogger, even though I haven't written a blog post in ages. The first one I'll link to below is a very long, but I think very helpful post, and I encourage you to read it when you have time. It was about this exact thing. People who are doing ultra strict, like medically therapeutic ketogenic diets, who don't need to and who feel terrible on them. Just because a couple of people with rare medical conditions are thriving on this doesn't mean you will thrive on it. Okay? And I love keto. I'm not talking anyone out of keto. I love keto, but ultra super strict keto is not going to be the best thing for everybody. It doesn't mean it's harmful for anyone. It just means you have to think, what is my situation? What are my circumstances? What makes the most sense for me to do? Not what Dr. Blah blah is saying online, not even what Amy Berger is saying online, except for what's best for me, not the fear mongering that somebody else is doing. What's going to be best for me right now? The end. Check out all the links. They're there for a reason. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.